Join Sam and Will as they bring the Bible's stories to life through historical evidence and try not to feel out of place in a car garage, all while bringing you Under the Hood.
Welcome to Under the Hood. I'm your host, Will. I'm here alongside Sam. Sam, what are we talking about today?
Today we're going to be talking about something called Epicureanism, which is the other side of Stoicism. And so if you watched our last episode on Stoicism, you got a feel for what that is. Today we're going to be talking about something that is the opposite side of it. And you think, why in the world would I ever want to watch something on this? And I think the answer to that is it really helps you to navigate this world and this life. And so many people that you meet, because if you watch cultures on a pendulum, what they tend to do is to swing on a broader scale, like the soul writ large. They tend to swing from having a Stoic vibe where it's like, do the right thing, go get hurt, it's less protective, to veering over to the Epicurean side and then realizing the error of that and then veering back. And it's just like the pendulum that keeps swinging back and forth. And Christianity completes both of them. It's the only thing that can come along and say to the Stoic, this is what you're after, that Stoicism can't answer, but Christianity can complete it. And to the Epicurean over here, which we'll get into what that means in a minute, Christianity is the only thing that can answer what they're longing for as well. And so it keeps society, it keeps the personal soul from just vacillating all over the place.
Yeah, those are two fancy ways to say this is how normal people live.
Yeah.
Like how we live in our world. Like we title them these things, but in the end, this is just how people are striving to live in this life. And we tell them Stoicism and Epicureanism. Those are just fancy words for like the way a lot of people are living right now today.
That's right. And so if in our last episode, when we talked about Stoicism, it's defined with kind of a virtue as the highest goal. Death is coming no matter what's, all these sufferings are coming. Just accept it. Put your head down, steel your heart. Don't be susceptible to emotion and power through. Do the right thing. Don't worry about yesterday. Don't worry about tomorrow. Live in this moment and just get after it. And so it's like, hey, why do we not have time for feelings? Like, let's just get after it. And so there's a lot of people out there that are like that look at our current culture, which is, snowflakes and safe spaces and everything else. And now there's a knee jerk against that that's like, hey, get over it. Like, deal with life. Let's press in and get after it. That's kind of the Stoicism thing. And the pendulum swings after that way, right? So you think Gen X, like if you go on social media, when people are making fun of Gen X childhood, what does it look like? It's, we had playgrounds where people got hurt. We did things
like rusty metal everywhere.
That's right. And it's just like, hey, deal with it. You're tough. Stop being such a wimp about everything. And then from there swings over and the next generation comes along and goes to college and, there's no red ink on tests, right? And everybody gets a trophy because we want to make sure that nobody's feelings get hurt. We have safe spaces and all those kinds of things. And that's the knee jerk to the other side, which is the Epicurean way of looking at things. So let's just answer for everybody. What is Epicureanism?
Yeah,
right?
where did it start?
It's founded by a guy named Epicurus. And so what it says is, okay, if Stoicism says virtue's the highest goal, and you should get after it and ignore suffering and death, it's coming anyway, so just deal with it. Don't be all worried about yesterdays and tomorrows. Epicureanism comes along and says, no, pleasure is the highest goal. And what they mean by that, like a lot of people say, oh, hedonism.
Yeah.
And it's like, kind of, but not quite. If you went back and you talked to Epicureanism, and both of these schools are starting at the same time period, right? If you were to talk to them and like, what do you mean by pleasure being the highest goal? They would say, do whatever you have to in life to avoid pain and trouble in the soul.
Okay.
And so if you talk to somebody back then, it wasn't, hey, go do drugs and get drunk and just experience pleasure and have as much sex as you want. Because what does that bring about in somebody's life?
Suffering
Lots
sometimes.
of suffering, right? If you give yourself over to excess like modern day hedonism, what does that do to you? It wrecks your life. If you go out and you give yourself away in all kinds of ways sexually, it yields destructive consequences to your life. So that the ancient Epicurean would look at that and go, that's not what we're talking about. Like, you need to live a life that is so simple and guarded that you don't allow pain to come into your life. Manage your life in such a way to where you are simple and all like, don't go out and be tremendously wealthy. Why? Because once you have tremendous wealth,
It's complex.
Comes tremendous problems and people expecting things of you. So wall it all off and avoid pain at all cost and experience the simple pleasures in life. That's what the original Epicurean was after. And if I were to say, let's boil them down to what the soul is saying.
Okay.
For the Stoic, it's your soul needs to be conformed to fit the world. There's a design to the world, right? And there's going to be pain, there's brokenness out there, but your soul needs to be conformed to the world because virtue is the highest good, right? Mm-hmm. Over here, the Epicurean is like, I just don't want to get hurt. And so I'm going to arrange everything out here that surrounds me in the world to make sure that my soul, which I'm not changing, is okay.
Okay.
Like I'm going to guard it and protect it. And so you see those two dynamics in humanity. You have the people that say, I need to change to fit the designs of our world. Those are moralists. You have a lot of them in the Christian church, right? And then you have the other side that says, under no condition should I ever have to experience pain. I should never have to experience shame. I should never have to do anything. So I'm going to arrange the world around me to fit me. Right? You get it? So one says, my soul bows to the world. The other one says, hey, world, bow to my soul, or the world that I'm exposed to. And one of the interesting things that I love doing, because it becomes so obvious when you look at it this way, you can see the culture shift through Disney movies.
Huh.
So like if you go back to the generations, right, that said, I need to change to meet the world's expectations. And you go back into old school Disney, what are some of the classics? Cinderella. What's the story of Cinderella? Do you know?
Yeah, I mean, kinda, I guess.
Well, give it to me.
Yeah, there's the girl who's being raised in a way that she doesn't want, and then all of a sudden she goes to a ball and finds the prince and the glass slipper, and all of a sudden her life's perfect.
Yeah, but she has to be transformed into something beautiful, right? Like she recognizes, I'm not quite there, I'm going to be transformed.
Yeah, her state at the beginning of the movie is not her state at the end of the movie.
That's correct. Pinocchio, what happens?
Your nose gets bigger if you lie.
Your nose gets bigger if you lie. But here's a wooden toy, and what's the goal? He needs to be transformed to
a real boy.
A real
I remember
boy,
now.
right? Or you look at Beauty and the Beast. What's in that story?
He's a beast.
He's a beast. How does it end?
He's not a beast.
He's going to be transformed to become this incredibly handsome prince, right?
I don't know if I've ever seen any of these.
Or the Little Mermaid, right? She wants to become the bride, so she needs to be transformed from the mermaid to have real legs and everything else. But all of these stories that come from like my generation of Disney is all you need to be transformed to get the beautiful story, right? Mm-hmm. Your generation of Disney.
Hey, let's not attack generations here.
Your generation of Disney, I'm just going
I didn't make the movies.
Well, it is. So my generation's more stoic. Like I need to fix myself or become something different to meet the world. The Epicurean view of Disney, which comes about with your generation and later, is the world just needs to accept me as I am. And you watch how the movies shift, and it's overwhelming. It's like movie after movie after movie is this story that I'm made the way I am. I'm not changing. I shouldn't have to change. I shouldn't have to feel ashamed of the way I am. I don't need to be transformed into the prince or the princess. The world needs to accept me as I am. So, Frozen, what happens?
You just got to let it go.
Yeah, right. You let it go. Right. But in that, the world has to just accept her for who she is. Or Shrek.
I know that one. He's an ogre. Ogres aren't good, but by the end of the movie, Mrs. Shrek is okay with being an ogre as well.
Yeah, that's right. He doesn't need to change. The world needs to realize that ogres are awesome, right? Or Brave, right? Where you have the main character who doesn't want marriage, doesn't want tradition, but eventually the world's like, oh, this is good. Or Encanto, the child that doesn't have the magical gifting is shunned initially, but then everyone else learns to accept them. Or Ratatouille, which I think is amazing. Great movie. But what is that? Like, all of Paris just needs to learn that it's okay to eat food made by a rat. But you get what I'm saying, or Kung Fu Panda, right? All of these are, you have some character Then an old Disney would have to go through some transformation to become what the world expects of them.
Yeah.
New Disney is no. The world needs to change to meet them where they are and allow them to stay where they are. You follow?
Yeah.
And so they're safe and they feel good. How do you see the Stoic and the Epicurean thing going on there?
Well, one's about transformation, one's about acceptance.
That's right. Are either one of them right or wrong?
No. They're not full.
They're incomplete.
Yeah.
Right? So with the Stoic, it's like, I've got to be transformed. I've got to be transformed. And the problem that the Epicureans have with that is you'll never be good enough.
Yeah.
You'll always be a disappointment. You'll always fall short. Like the fairy tale princess out there, that's a fairy tale. And so I'm over here hurting, right? Because no one accepts me as I am, right? And so what are their fairy tales? Oh, I can just stay the way I am and the world is going to come around me and sing Kumbaya, which, by the way, is also a fairy tale that leads a lot of people into the same exaggerated disappointments that you get on the other side, but are either of those wrong impulses. Like, think about this. What the Epicurean is saying and the Stoic is saying is, the Stoic says, I want to measure up.
Yeah.
I want to be good enough. I want to be transformed. I want to be the hero. I want to be the prince. And the Epicurean on the other side, modern Disney, is saying, I just want to be loved as I am.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to earn it. I'm tired. I just want to be good enough. Can you love me as I am? And the tragedy is in the world, if you look at the world alone, the Stoic will never get that Disney story over here fully. Mm-hmm. And the Epicurean will never get the world that loves them as they are.
Yeah, because we'll never be good enough on this side because we can't get there by ourselves. So the Stoics is just running on the rat wheel to get somewhere. But on the other side, the Epicureanism is like, I'm not good as I am. I'm not perfect. Mm-hmm. So this is not what you want.
That's right. And so then here lately, there's a new flavor of Disney, right? But you can see, before we move on, you can see how the gospel hits both of those, right?
Of course, yeah.
Because the gospel comes to you and says, I accept you as you are. I love you enough to accept you as you are. And I love you too much to leave you as you are.
Yeah.
And so only in the gospel do you get a God, the one who knows all, sees all, omnipotent, who looks at you, knows every dark secret you have, knows everything you're trying to run away from, knows all of your identity blemishes and everything else, and says, you're worth dying for. I accept you. But then says, now let's get busy making something beautiful because I love you too much to leave you as you are. And then the promise is that ultimately in the gospel, guess what? You are transformed. You are royalty. You are the royal priesthood. You are going to reign. You are going to sit on the throne. You are going to be beautiful. You're going to be perfect someday because of what he did, not because of what you've done. And you're going to be infinitely accepted and secure. Like it scratches both of those itches in ways that they independently cannot do. And then you throw in the third Disney wrinkle that's more recent. And this is fascinating to me. But the most recent Disney has moved on from the Epicurean stuff and is now in this whole genre where the wicked are actually the hero.
Yeah, the whole anti-hero movement.
It's a big movement, right? So let's go through some of those animated films. Maleficent, what's that?
I've never even heard of that one.
Really? Okay, so Maleficent is the wicked queen that when you learn her backstory, it's like she's the wicked, one who casts a spell and brings destruction and ruin on everything. But when you learn her backstory, you're like, oh, she actually is really good. Like the wicked person is really good. Or Cruella, the 101 Dalmatians.
Yeah,
originally, in the original, she's like skinning dogs, right? Like she's known, that's the rumor. In the new one, she's like, oh, Cruella, she's just misunderstood and she's actually good. Or Wreck-It Ralph, who's the villain in the games, becomes the hero. Or How to Train Your Dragon. Like, oh, these dragons are just misunderstood. And if we, they're actually on our team and we'll make them good. Or Hotel Transylvania is a show about how all the vampires and monsters of old Disney are actually really wonderful. And it's the world that's all messed up and it makes them into heroes. Or there's actually a movie called The Bad Guys. Have you seen that one?
No.
It's interesting. But it's about bad guys that then become the hero. Why in the world, in all these Disney things, so there's this idea that I'm not good how I am, I need to become the prince. Where's that impulse? Or the impulse that says, gosh, I just wish the world would take me as I am. What's that impulse? And then add this last one. I am far too wicked, but I wish the world could see me as a hero. Again, only the gospel can come with the God of the universe who looks at people who are genuinely wicked, who are self-absorbed, who make a mess of his world. And he can say to the stoic part of me, you're going to be transformed. You're going to become all those things that you dreamed to be, and it's going to be me that does it for you. You're going to live in heaven. And the part of me that's insecure, right? That says, gosh, I don't think anybody could love me if they knew me. What is he knows me upside down, inside out, loves me top to bottom. Or the person that says, could somebody as wicked as these figures ever be truly loved? Is there any room for them to be the hero? You know what the gospel says? Absolutely.
Yeah.
It comes to all these incomplete worldviews that the world tries to throw at us, and only the gospel can come and saturate them and fill them and give purpose to you in each of those respects.
Yeah, I love the story of John 8. I think it kind of illustrates this perfectly. Like the woman caught in adultery. Like, she is caught in adultery. She is in sin. And everyone around her is like, we're going to stone this woman. And Jesus steps in. Whoever has no sin, you can cast the first stone. All of a sudden, they start walking away. The story doesn't end there. Jesus says, no, go from here and sin no more. It's the complete picture of like, no, you are broken. You are sinful, but I don't want to leave you here.
Yeah.
Like, let's have some transformation.
Yeah, it speaks to every single one of those three things we just talked about. I do expect better from you, but I'm going to walk with you through that process. I'm going to transform you. I accept you as you are. And even though your notoriety in this town says that you're no good, I'm going to make you a hero in my story. Like that's just the way he is. And it's so incredibly beautiful. And the point of Epicureanism that where their chief motivation that I need to find pleasure by avoiding suffering. Like, you can't avoid suffering in this world.
Not at all.
You can't, right? And Epicureanism, like, to find pleasure, we take pills and we get all these new advancements in technology, and we're like, oh, we'll insulate ourselves from suffering. And then what does that do? It just creates new forms of suffering to where, we get gadgets that make our life easier, but then it robs us of authentic community. It makes us the loneliest generation that's ever been, the generation filled with the most anxiety, where this is always at our, it's like we run to avoid suffering into a brand new kind of suffering. And it seems like with humanity, no matter where we run, there we are. And we don't like it. There's something about this world that's broken, right? And so the Stoic says there's something in here that's broken. I need to conform. The Epicurean says, no, it's something out there that's broken. It needs to conform to me. And the gospel comes jumping up and down and says, you're both broken.
Yeah.
The world is broken. It needs to be remade. And what's the promise of the gospel?
It will be.
A new creation, a new Jerusalem, a new heavens, a new earth. All of it. And yet, you will become a new creation because you're broken too. There's something inside you that's entirely self-absorbed and sinful. And so the gospel comes and says, everything is being made new. Everything is given a higher purpose. Everything is going to be made more beautiful. Hey, Stoic, like, there is something greater than just virtue for virtue's sake.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, Epicurean over here, the one who's running away from suffering at all cost, the gospel comes, the New Testament comes, the Old Testament comes and says, there's meaning behind suffering. There's actually beauty behind your suffering. Paul, who suffers more than anybody should ever have to suffer in this life, what does he say? I consider all this present suffering not worthy to be compared to the glory that will be revealed in us. Right? When I consider the weight of glory, all this is just momentary, light and momentary afflictions. When you see what he has ultimately accomplished for you and how he suffered for you and how he has stored up a future that you can be excited about, you don't have to hide from suffering because you know the God of the universe who transforms all that suffering into something beautiful, just like he did at the cross. So stop hiding from it. You don't have to be the Stoic that steels yourself and says, I'm not going to let emotion get any part of me. And I also don't have to be the person that runs away from every conceivable form of suffering, because I worship a God who can transform it all into something beautiful.
Yeah, the gospel comes to us, doesn't minimize the suffering you and I face.
Right.
Like, life is hard, life is tough, there's difficult things, there's cancer diagnoses, there's sickness, there's financial peril, there's all these things. The Bible doesn't say like, oh, that's light and momentary, just get over it. It says no, like what's waiting for you on the other side, when we look back at all this, we'll say, oh, he was doing something. It was completely worthwhile. He had a plan, and this was the plan for my life, and the glory that I will now step into is so great that the suffering will just be whatever.
And to your point, the thing I love about that is we don't worship a God that's unfamiliar with suffering.
Yeah.
We worship a God who looked over Jerusalem and made himself and said, like, here I am. And they rejected him, and he weeps over Jerusalem. He weeps at the tomb of Lazarus. He experiences pain and suffering, and yet he overcomes it. And we don't worship a God who looks at your suffering and goes, right? We worship a God, one, who's been through that kind of suffering, but more than that, hates it so much, hates the impact of sin, hates the impact of death and the stranglehold that it holds on this world. He hates it so much that what did he do to defeat it? He endured it.
Yeah.
He experienced suffering. He experienced death to overthrow its power for you, so that the Epicurean can be freed, and the Stoic can be freed, and the villain can become the hero. All of it in the power of the gospel.
Yeah, it's only found in Jesus.
Amen. And we'll leave it there. I want to thank you for watching. Join us next time on Under the Hood.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. We'd love you checked out some other content we have. You can find that at sunlitstudios.com.